Spring is definitely in the air. In celebration of the first day of spring starting tomorrow, let's refresh our tarot practice with these decks that bloom with the season. Now, these are my choices from my collection on the top decks that I have that kind of fit that springtime feeling. I have 6 decks to get through plus 2 honorable mentions. Before I hop into this awesome list that I have, please, before you leave, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and with that being said, let's get right into it. The first deck that I have here, and this is the deck that kind of set off this video in my head, and it's the Goblins and Garden Tarot. This deck is chock full of vegetation, quite literally, because it uses a lot of art from garden magazines and it combines it with Dungeon and Dragon figures. This to me is kind of like the ultimate spring. It's kind of representative of late spring when things are really starting to be full bloom right before we hit like full-blown summer. And this could fit for the summer prompt, but with the word garden and I don't know, just the different blooms here, and there's a lot of fauna featured, and to me that feels very spring to me versus summer. I know all of these things happen in summer as well. I don't know, it just felt more spring-like to me, and I don't know if that's because like this is what I wish the world looked like right now, and it's starting to get there. But where I live in the Northeast, it takes quite a while to actually look like this for spring, but it's like my dream of spring, I guess. So that's why I kind of included it in the spring decks versus like a summer deck. But like I said, it could really fit for either of those seasons really well. I also like the quirk of this deck, and I don't know, I just felt like springtime is like a very strange season where we're transitioning out of winter, and the weather here, especially in the Northeast, it bobs back and forth between holding on to winter and being like pushed forward into spring. It's that weird in between kind of transitional season, and this is kind of like a weird deck, so I just thought that those two went together quite well. So this is the Goblins and Gardens Tarot for our very first pick. The next deck that I have here is Ethereal Visions, and this has been a deck that's been out for a while now. I think 2016 or 2017, around there. Originally 2017. I do have like the version that has the expanded guidebook, which to me, actually, my opinion, I had the first like mass market printing of this, but I did rehome it, so this is a repurchase for me. I just loved the art so much and I kind of missed it in my collection, so I did repurchase it. They did like a reprint with the expanded guidebook here. It said in 2022, and I'm not quite sure, I can't remember what the guidebook looked like for the original printing, but I mean, each card has about the same amount of text, so I'm not exactly sure what was expanded or if it's like all this front stuff here, like the spreads and the introduction that was added on, and that's what the expanded part is. But I don't know, the meanings are still pretty minimal. It's not like a, I don't know, mind-blowing kind of guidebook, but if you're just starting out, I think it would give you exactly like the facts of kind of what you need. The reason I chose this as a spring deck is it has a lot of pastels in it. It has like a dreamlike quality. I mean, the Lovers here is definitely very spring-like. I don't know, I just felt like that ethereal vibe, that Art Nouveau kind of style mixed with these soft pastels is kind of, it just screams spring. Even the Five of Pentacles kind of is like, I just noticed this now, but almost looks like this could be a flower the way that it's arranged. It's a very beautiful deck. Like I said, it's been around for a really long time. I'm not sure if they changed the cardstock when they did the expanded guidebook version that I have now. I remember it being like similar to this, but a little thicker. I don't remember it being as thin, but maybe someone can tell me. I think I would like to try to find an older copy of this, just because I remember actually really liking the cardstock on that. But if it's the same and I'm just misremembering, then I don't know, that could be the case very well. But it is pretty flexible cardstock. It is matte except for the gold foiling here. It's just a really beautiful, stunning deck, and I think it fits the springtime theme really well. The next deck I have is Little Sister Tarot. This deck and Ethereal Visions are new purchases, as well as the next one I'm going to feature. I'm planning to do a haul video, but I haven't yet. I'm saving that for the end of the month because I have a couple more decks kind of trickling in. I just kind of wanted to wait for those to kind of tag those onto that, but this is a Kickstarter originally, and I did see it when it first launched on Kickstarter, but I just didn't have the funds to get it at the time. Luckily, the artist still has copies on her Etsy, so if you also missed out and you've been wanting this, it's on Etsy. I do also see it pop up from time to time on like a marketplace, but the reason that this one struck me as a spring deck, and you might be saying, well, there's a lot of deeper like colors, and it's true, there are, but this deck is pretty special in my opinion. And the creator talks about the origin story of this deck and how it came to be, and it was a grief processing journey for the creator. The creator is a little sister, but unfortunately they have lost both of their older siblings, and so this was a process of going through grief and honoring the fact that she is still a little sister regardless of the loss that has occurred. As I got thinking, it just feels very emotive and very hopeful when I use it. It's very gentle and delicate in a way, and that's kind of some keywords that I associate with spring. So we're coming out of a time of darkness from winter, and that transition back into the light isn't always the easiest. In fact, it's probably the hardest journey to take, you know, after you've been down in the dumps or experiencing some depression or some sadness in your life. The way back up isn't always like this Nine of Cups feeling. It takes a while to get there, and this deck is very intentional in its emotions and its lessons. It's very precious, and I've just found it to be a source of that in-betweenness of it's helping you through. Like, it knows that it can be bright and sunshiny on the other side, but that it takes some serious work, and that work is very delicate. And yeah, so I don't know, it just feels like spring to me, like we're starting to come up to fresh air after a long winter of going through some things or working through some things. I just find it's very beautiful and in touch with its emotive side. At least it brings out that when I use it. So I just thought it really evoked that transition into springtime. Plus, I think the backs are very beautiful, and the edging is this like beautiful, almost like electric blue. It's so beautiful. Some of my favorite packs. The next deck that I have is kind of pretty much hot off the presses, I would say. It's the Forest Spirit Imprint Tarot, and this also was a Kickstarter, but you can find copies on Tavada, and I'll leave that link for you below. But just the vibrant green of the backs, you can probably tell why I chose this for a spring deck. I also think that this is a very special deck, and it's a story of this girl going through life and the major arcana and the different suits and learning different lessons. And in that way, it just feels kind of innocent in the way. I feel like when I broach the topic of inner child work, if I so choose to do that, this is definitely one of the decks that I would use for that. It just has that inner innocence to it, and that, I don't know, springtime, you think of, you know, all the wildlife are starting to mate and babies and bring them into the world, and it's just a beautiful time, and it kind of reminds me of spring in that way. I mean, exactly perfect depiction for spring. It has a lot of lovely colors. Like, these are some of the most vibrant colors that I've seen, and honestly, typically I usually prefer such colorful decks like this to be on glossy cardstock because I feel like it gives that extra dimension and sheen to the colors. But honestly, this deck does a beautiful job being on like a satin type of cardstock and still featuring such bold pops of color. Like, it's very vibrant, definitely for springtime. I just think it's quite lovely. My next selection is kind of a classic. Well, it is a classic. I am featuring here the JK Tarot. However, what I'm going to say is the RWS in general, and the copies out there or clones out there of the RWS that feature like a stronger, bolder color palette. There's a couple of mass market ones. I can't remember them off the top of my head right now, but I'll pop some names up on the screen. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this copy, because I do know this copy is, I don't know if it's out of print just yet, but if you're looking for a copy, it's, I think, probably getting a little bit harder to find. I don't know. I kind of got this when it first came out. This is a reprint of the JK Tarot, and I believe it's the 1975 version is the one that I have. But the way that the colors are used in this are very vibrant. It just like wakes me up and makes me happy, and it just reminds me of springtime. And this is my favorite rendition of the classic RWS ever. Like, this will forever be my favorite clone, but there are other mass market decks out there that do recolor the RWS in a bolder way with big pops of color and vibrancy. So that's why I'm including this on the list, because you can find copies out there that are mass market, so they're better for your wallet, that have more color to them and might be a little bit more appealing than the classic coloring of the RWS or even the Centennial version I have, but it's more muted. So the muted colors, I think, would also work for this as well. If you prefer not as bold colors, then the Centennial is definitely a good option for you, and I still would fit that into a springtime deck. I think I would. But yeah, I have the JK Tarot. And the final deck in my original list here that I wanted to include, but don't leave just yet because I do have 2 honorable mentions after this, and I'll explain why I chose them as honorable mentions versus being in this main choice selection. But the next deck I have here is the Dramatis Personae Tarot. This is an indie deck. I do believe you can still find copies out there. The Ace of Cups I feel like has really shown up in all of these decks. I know I'm like flipping through them, but every Ace of Cups that I've seen while flipping through, I'm like, yep, that is exactly what I envision springtime as. It matches up so beautifully. But this features a lot of flora and fauna as well, and a lot of these pastel colors here. So I just thought it was very fitting for springtime. The colors are still pretty like pastel and muted, so it's perfect for this time of year as we're transitioning to that more brighter season. The sun is out longer, everyone's mood is starting to shift in general, I feel like. And it's so tough because I'm a person who loves winter. Winter is my most favorite season ever, so it always makes me sad that people hate on winter so much because I think there's so much more to it than just cold weather. There's so much magic to me in the winter time. Like, I feel like it's the most magically inclined season. Like, it feels more open to me even than like Samhain time, and I don't know how to explain it other than that's just how I feel. My next favorite season after that is springtime, and I think it's tied to the fact that I was born in the spring. Spring is like a transition type of season, and I feel like that kind of describes my personality really well. I'm very shy and reserved and introverted, but once you get to know me, I kind of blossom and bloom, I guess you would say. So I feel like that those 2 sides kind of perfectly describe what springtime means to me personally. And I just really think that this is a sweet deck. I love that the figures are theater focused and old images from theater, and how the artist has put them together with such simple backgrounds, but they're so effective at the same time, and just the lovely colors. So I feel like I've kind of repeated myself, but those are the reasons why I decided to have the Dramatis Personae Tarot as a top deck for springtime. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you watching towards the end here. But I do have 2 honorable mentions, and the first one is Seasons of the Witch Ostara. I think I've featured this on my channel before, but this is a more recent acquisition. I kind of went through a purchase spree. I haven't been able to buy new decks in a really long time, so I kind of hit my wish list and purchased quite a few, hence the haul coming up later this month. But of course, nothing could be more spring-like than an Ostara themed oracle deck. That's kind of the reason why I'm including it as an honorable mention, because I kind of feel like it goes without saying that this would be a spring deck. But the amazing thing is that this is mass market. It's out there in the wild now. You can easily find it and access it, and it's a great option to really match up with this time of year. And it is the last Seasons of the Witch oracle deck in the whole series, and I don't know, I felt honored for it to be the last one. I do see that they went from Samhain to Ostara, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. One is like the end of a cycle, the other is the beginning of a cycle, but they used the beginning as like the end to conclude the series, which I don't know, I think is very symbolic in a way, and I kind of like that. I also, for whatever reason, I kind of feel like even though that's backwards, it kind of makes sense to me. So that if you needed to know how like my brain works, backwards is best, I guess. But I kind of understand why they did that, and it makes sense to me. This is the spring oracle deck, so you couldn't get any more springtime than this. And then of course, for the same reasons as the Seasons of the Witch Ostara Oracle, I also have Ostara Tarot as an honorable mention, and that's because it's literally the season, like the name of the deck is for the season. So, and I do feel that the artwork does a really good job at matching up to that. Like, this is the perfect spring card to me. It's soft, it's still pastel-y, but there's a lot of colors. She's like happy, she's just loving life. I couldn't leave this one out because it has the namesake of spring, but I didn't want it to take up another slot that another deck in my collection would fit. So this was kind of my workaround to that. This is a deck that is, again, new to my collection, but it's one I've been wanting forever and a day. Again, this one has, let's see, this one is from 2017, so similar to Ethereal Visions. It's been around for a really long time, and you can still find it. It's mass market. It's easily accessible. I really loved that these 4 lovely ladies here came together to create this tarot. I do believe that they're all friends and that they met in college. In the bios, each one of them attended the same school. So I think that's really cool. I think their idea really came together well. And while they do have different art styles, I think it just comes together so beautifully. I really love collaborative type decks where different artists do different cards. In this case, each one of them took one of the 4 suits, and then they split the major arcana between them equally. And you can tell that there are like definitely distinct styles. So for example, this style here pops up a lot, and then this like softer one pops up a lot as well. So yes, there are differences like in the style of artwork, but I feel like the color story that they've put together really enhances the cohesiveness of this deck. And like this one's more storybook-like, like it feels more like hand-drawn with colored pencil in a way, and then this one's a little more fantastical. Snow. Thank you guys so much for being here and spending some time with me. I hope that you have a fantastic spring, and until next time, see you around.